Good day, class. In the previous videos, we have studied the general introduction of the Chinese materia medica. From the study, we will understand what the Chinese materia medica is, as well as their properties. We also will understand the actions from the view of their properties, because each herb has different property in terms of the four natures, flavors, their meridian tropism, their ascending, descending, floating, and sinking property, as well as their toxicity. From these different properties, each herb has different function. So from the general introduction, we will understand how to analyze and why these herbs have different functions. From this video, we are going to discuss the specific herbs. We also try to analyze the action of the herbs from the theory in the general introduction. These are also used as examples of analyzing the herbal medicine. When you study this kinds of analysis, you also can apply in future in the acupuncture study, especially for the acupuncture points. Why this acupuncture points has why this acupuncture point has this kinds of actions. So you need to try to analyze in these ways. So in this video, we are going to talk about the bacteria releasing herbs. Similarly, we're going to start from the general introduction. We're going to discuss what are in common in this category, bacteria releasing herbs. And after the general introduction, we're going to introduce some of the herbs. So we're going to discuss specific herbs. Bacteria releasing herbs. The definition: herbs with the main action of releasing bacterial pathogens and bacterial syndromes. Herbs used for relieving bacterial syndromes are called bacteria-releasing herbs. From the definition, you will see that we actually focus on the bacteria, either the pathogens or syndromes, but these two are closely related to each other. Bacterial syndromes are mostly caused by the bacterial pathogens. And this group of herbs can relieve the bacterial syndrome. And this group of herbs can be divided into two categories: when cold dispersing herbs or when heat dispersing herbs, depends on their properties, especially from the four natures. When we talk about the bacterial pathogens and bacterial syndromes, there's one question here: what are bacterial pathogens? Bacterial pathogens refers to the 6 exogenous pathogens, especially when they are accompanied by the wind. So when we talk about the bacterial syndrome, when we talk about bacteria, we focus on the wind. They must have a wind. There's one saying, it says, without the wind, there will be no bacterial syndrome. Without the wind, there will be no bacterial syndrome. In other words, bacterial syndrome must have a wind. So that's also why the action of this group of herbs, many of them have the action of dispelling wind. In an bacterial syndrome, the patient may present as fever, aversion to cold or aversion to wind, headache, body pain, nose sweating, floating pulse, nasal obstruction, runny nose, itching throat, coughing, tachypnea, etc. As you can see, the symptoms mostly focus on the upper part of the body, the or the superficial parts of the body, or the symptoms related to the lung or the respiration system. That's also because of the function of the lung. The lung's function is related to the skin, to the superficial. That's why it is related to the bacteria. When we analyze the action of the herbs, we're going to analyze from these different aspects: the properties, the natures, the flavors, the meridian tropism, compatibility, and cautions. After the study in the general introduction, we will understand that the actions of each herb will depend on their properties, especially from the view of four natures and the five flavors. As for example, this group of herbs most of them have sweet taste, sweet cold or sweet warm. The nature of them may be warm or cool. Some are bitter. Most of them, the property will be very light. The reason is because most of them are flowers or leaves. They have the flavor of pungent. Pungent can disperse. So it can disperse, can dispel the wind, can dispel from superficial. Sweet cold can nourish the dryness, body fluids, stop thirst. Sweet warm can warm the interior. Sweet can tonify. Sweet cold also can tonify, so nourish the yin. The warm pungent can dispel the wind cold when the property of the herbs is cool. Cool pungent can dispel the wind heat. Bitter can dispel the wind because of the pungent dampness. That's because of the taste, bitter. Bitter can dry dampness. And some of them also may cure pains. The meridian tropism, most of them entered the lung and bladder meridian. The lung is related to the superficial. Bladder meridian, the reason for the bladder meridian is because from the 6 meridians, the bladder meridian also related to the superficial. So the general action of this group of herbs: dispel the wind, stop itching, dispel wind and open orifice, dispel the wind and benefit thoughts. So it depends on which one. They have these a few actions. Dispel wind, stop itching. Itching may be the itching skin or itching throat. So a skin disorder, if the patient suffers from the itching skin, we also may choose the herbs from this group. Dispel wind, open orifice. The orifice is not mostly is not related refers to the consciousness, so it's not related refers to the heart, mostly such as the nose blockage. Orifice. Dispel the wind and benefit the throat, itching throat, sore throat. So something related to here, we can use this group of herbs. Clinical applications. We're going to use the dispel wind cold herbs for wind cold syndrome. We're going to use dispelling wind heat herbs for wind heat syndrome. Wind cold syndrome, the patient may present with the wind, something moving, and the cold syndrome, such as the pale or thin white coating. Wind heat syndrome, the patient may present with a red tongue with a thin yellow coating. So if you see a thin yellow coating, then you will choose from the wind heat herbs. Sometimes we also will think about the seasons. In spring, we will more likely to choose the wind heat herbs. Dispel wind heat. In summer, dispel dry or dampness, or dispel the wind heat as well. In autumn, nourish ink because in autumn it's dry and nourish dryness. In winter, dispel wind cold. So that's something you need to consider when you see a patient. This rule also can be applied in the acupuncture treatment. When you see patients in different seasons, you also need to think about the seasons, the weather, how the weather can affect our human body. So in winter, you may choose some points that can benefit the internal warmth. In summer, you may choose something, or you are more likely to choose some acupoints to relieve the dampness and the heat, especially in Johannesburg. In summer, we got a lot of rain. That's humid. Humid in the environment is the dampness in our body. So in summer, when you see patient in summer, you may want to use something, either the herbs or the acupuncture points to relieve the dampness. That's also why some patients in summer, they will feel tired. They don't want to move. That's because of the dampness. When we prescribe the prescription, we also need to think about the individual's body constitution. Is it a strong constitution or a weak constitution? This will depend on which herbs you're going to choose, and also will depend on the will affect the dosage. Lastly, you're going to think about what's the chief symptoms. What's the worst symptom you want to relieve? Relieving symptoms, you want to relieve the coughing, short of breath, or reduce the phlegm, or you try to open the orifice, the patient got blocked nose, nasal congestion. So you're going to choose the herbs according to the main symptoms or the most severe symptom. That's something you need to think about. So these are different aspects you may think about when you prescribe the prescription. Cautions. Also, when you use this group of herbs, because these herbs some of them can cause sweating, do not cause excessive sweating. The reason is because if you cause excessive sweating, it will result in indeficiency. So body fluid deficiency. That's something you need to think about. So don't overuse them. The second is a patient with body fluid deficiency or with insufficiency. When you use this group of herbs, you need to be careful because the wind will dry the body, so can result in even worse fluid dysfunction, fluid deficiency. Also, a patient suffer from yang deficiency. Why in yang deficiency patient we also need to be careful. That's similar to the sweating because the yang, especially yang qi, the qi, will relieve or will be damaged by the sweating. The more you sweat, the patient feel more tired. In Chinese medicine way, we said that the yang qi reduce through the sweating, through the excessive sweating. So a patient suffer from yang qi deficiency. When you use those kinds of herbs, you also need to be careful, especially for the dose. Choosing the herbs according to the time in which season, the place, and individuals. Where is the patient? The patient is in Johannesburg in Durban or in Cape Town, you might use different. You might need to use different herbs because the different area, different places will have different weather that can affect our human body. So that's something we need to think about. And also, do not cook too long. All bacteria releasing herbs, they are all most of them, actually all of them, they are fragrant. So fragrant herbs, we shouldn't cook too long. If you cook for a long period, the fragrance will disappear. So you actually reduce the function, the efficacy. So these 4 aspects, that's something you need to think about. You need to be careful when you prescribe the prescription, as well as when you tell the patient what to do and what not to do. That's something you need to think about.